Thoughts from the trail. I'm Scott Anderson.
Good morning from the trail. It is before sunrise. In fact, I'll turn around and show you behind me there. The sunrise is happening, but it has not yet happened. Anyhow, good morning. I'm out on the trail this morning, and today I'm thinking about what happens to us sometimes with relationships with people. So for instance, have you ever had an incident where somebody maybe you don't know very well, maybe you met for the first time, maybe you know them, I don't know if that really matters, and they do something that you perceive to be egregious or wrong or offensive in some way, and based upon that single incident, you then make a determination that that person is not a good person or bad, or whatever term that you apply to the situation. So from just that one interaction, that one incident, you're making the determination that that person is bad, and that's how you think of them, and that gets stuck in your brain. And then on the other hand, and I'm going to use what I think is maybe the easiest way to illustrate this point for instance, on social media. It could be on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, whatever your favorite is, or least favorite, doesn't really matter. And you're watching somebody's account and you're seeing all these great things that they do. And you're thinking to yourself, oh my gosh, they're so awesome. Or they have such an awesome life. And to me, those two situations are the opposite extreme, because again, whether it's the person who offended you or it's the person who you see on social media, just everything being wonderful, both those ends are based upon very limited information. Now, I'm not saying in both cases they're not, the determination is not correct. What I'm saying is we're entering into a judgment zone with very little information. And so we're judging someone, their lives, their actions, their character, their ability, etc., based on a tiny sliver of information. And so that puts me into the mode of thinking of the value and the danger and the pitfall of making judgments. For instance, I know for me personally, there have been many times when I have met somebody and my very first impression of them is not favorable at all. And then as time has has passed on, and through a course of events, I was able to discover that that person actually is really an amazing person. And then I have one example where my first impression of somebody was horrible, and now we've been basically best friends for a very long time. Decades. And so my initial judgment was wrong, and if I had shut things down right then and there, I would have missed out on a lifelong amazing friendship and relationship. So I counsel us against this idea of judging on limited information, and actually, to be totally honest, the idea of judging, period. It is really, we need to avoid judgment. And here's one of the reasons why I think this is true. Avoiding judgment, when we get into judging, we're getting into an area very similar to comparison, where maybe we're judging them because we're comparing them against ourselves or against some ideal that we have. And as we have discussed many times before, right here on Thoughts from the Trail, comparison robs joy. And getting into a mode of comparing things, it just is not a fruitful journey for us. So judgment and comparison can be partners. It doesn't mean they necessarily have to be, but they certainly can be partners. So anyhow, so it's kind of like this. I summarize it by this way, is when we're judging somebody based upon maybe a negative incident with them, maybe we're looking at their blooper reel. And when we're judging someone based upon what they share on Facebook, in many cases, we're looking at their highlight reels. So it's two different comparisons. When you go watch a movie, you don't get to watch the blooper reel. You only get to watch the highlight reel. And so many mistakes were made along the way to get to that to get to the movie, right? Or the highlight reel. And the same is true for each of us. We're all making many mistakes. And hopefully those mistakes are not the defining components of who we are. And hopefully when we're looking at other people, we're not allowing mistakes to be the final determinant of who they are. So I ask us to be considerate. How would we want to be treated and perceived in that situation? And can we be gracious and merciful in the way that we look at other people, and avoid this idea of judgment and comparison? It's kind of a very interesting topic, and I'm really just hitting the surface of it. We can go much deeper, but I'm already way too long on this one. So that's what I'm thinking about today. I invite you to think about, are you in the judgment zone? Are you in the comparison zone? And what steps can you take to avoid it at your best? I mean, it is a practice just like everything else is here. So I don't have it perfected. I don't know that anybody has it perfected. We all can jump right into the judgment zone and comparison zone pretty readily. So I invite you to think about that today. I'm going to continue thinking about it, and I'm going to go show you this beautiful view here of the sunrise coming up over these little flowers, and I'll see you next time on the trail. Yeah, look at that. That's so beautiful.